It's time to bring the brother home. So with that, I would like to bring up our lead consultant, Mr. Walter Roberts.
Morning.
If you're confused, and you might be, I just want to let you know, everybody's talking about this. This headline reads, officials say Kelsey Harris. Who's Kelsey Harris? If you don't know, we're talking about the Megan Stallion situation. Kelsey Harris is the lady there to the left, and in the middle, that's Megan. Of course, we have Tory Lanez to the right, who is currently right now serving a 10-year sentence for being found guilty of shooting Megan Thee Stallion. Now, this headline that reads, Bodyguard of Kelsey Harris overheard her admitting to shooting Megan Thee Stallion, could change everything about this case and in turn change Tory Lanez's life for the better. Let's keep listening.
During his work on that op-ed, he became aware of some information in Unite the People's possession regarding a statement that was given to Unite the People by someone with information relevant to that case. The New York Post recently reached out to the prior district attorney, George Gascon, Megan Pete and her representatives, and Kelsey Harris and her representatives. The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell. Unite the People represents Daystar Peterson in his appellate process. We filed an appellate brief and a written...
Hold on. I know you heard the same thing I just did. Did he just try to imply that maybe that was some type of a setup? Hold on.
The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell. Unite the People represents Daystar Peterson in his appellate process. We filed an appellate brief and a writ of habeas corpus on his behalf. The district attorney's office has already responded. The case is fully briefed. We're just waiting for the appellate court's decision. We were willing to wait for the appellate process to play out, but given that brutal, unprovoked attack, we felt it necessary to come here today to provide you with this information. It is our intention to make a request to the governor to either pardon or commute the sentence of Mr. Peterson, so that when he recovers from this attack, he's not returned to a jail cell, but that he's allowed to go home and recover.
I just heard that right. They're saying once this information came out, this new information, that Kelsey Harris's bodyguard overheard her admitting to shooting Megan Thee Stallion. Megan Thee Stallion's legal team asked for more information, and then came the attack. And so this now could point to that may have been, right, everything's alleged here, a possible hit. But is it really that hard to believe? Considering that this would drastically change the case. I mean, just think about how this would affect Megan's career going forward. Oh my goodness. Shit's about to go crazy. There's so much going on right now. There is so much going on from every which angle.
Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James. Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Ms. Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial. As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People. And that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was a witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had, where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times. Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. Wow. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun. This statement aligns with the statement of the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly, who at trial testified he saw 2 women fighting, 2 men break up the fight, one man grabbed the other one's arm. Gunshots came from the passenger side. The passenger side is where Ms. Harris was sitting. This further iterates that Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete, or did not assault Miss Pete. It's just another irregularity in a list of irregularities in this case. For example, there were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson, even though unknown DNA was found on the gun. Why was
I remember that. I remember that being a really, really, really crucial point that they kept on bringing up during that case.
wasn't Miss Harris's DNA taken? Or was it taken and the information simply never given to the defense? Why wasn't the driver of the car, Mr. Jaquan Smith's DNA taken? Or was it taken and again, simply not given to the defense? We don't know. It should have been taken. It is Unite the People's understanding, regular LAPD practice at a crime scene like that, anybody who's there, the DNA is taken. Another irregularity. Why, at Miss Harris's police interview, was a non-lawyer, non-family member record company executive allowed to participate? Highly irregular situation. Normally, we see cases, strangers are not allowed in these things, but it was in this case. All of these things point to the highly irregular nature of his trial and his conviction. It is our contention that he was wrongly convicted. And while we at first were willing to let the process play out, it is our contention now that if he is not pardoned or released promptly, he may never come out. And that would be the ultimate injustice, is that he gets killed in prison for something he did not do. At this time, I'd like to bring up Mr. Gianno Caldwell.
Wow. Who would have thought that this would go this direction? And at this time, you know, you have the Diddy trial going on right now. And this just seems like a whole nother situation coming from a completely different angle. So, of course, we're going to, those comments, the comments are going to be wild when it comes to this topic. Why? Because people were so loud. Because I remember those videos I made defending the fact that I didn't think that Tory Lanez should have gotten 10 years. I definitely thought the sentencing was too harsh, amongst other things, while still stating the very obvious mistakes that he made in his life and career. I want to frame this correctly because I think there are a lot of people who are fans of Tory Lanez, right? You have the people who are like, Tory Lanez maybe changed their life significantly due to his art and music. And while I do like a few Tory Lanez songs, it's not how I view Tory Lanez. I specifically just looking at the situation, looking at him getting 10 years behind bars and what we knew about Megan Thee Stallion lying, and the whole situation just seemed like irresponsible young people drinking too much, making bad decisions, and they all made these bad decisions. And he, for some reason, Tory Lanez was seen as the only toxic individual in this whole situation. I will start by saying this, though. The first thing that came to mind, because here's what I'm definitely going to do. I'm definitely going to piss off either the fans, right, the super fans, or people who are really like, go Megan, she can do no wrong. You're going to get upset in this video for sure. And if you're caffeinated, you'll be more inclined to understand where I'm coming from. I'm listening to this. I'm thinking to myself, Tory Lanez probably knew that he could have some way, somehow gotten on the stand, testified, but he wanted to protect Kelsey. Playing by street rules. First thing comes to my mind is, what an idiot. What an idiot. I'm sorry. That's the first thing that comes to my mind in this situation. How are the streets worth 10 years of your life? And obviously it wasn't, right? Because if it actually was, then he would have done that time and took everything that came with it, the possible stabbing situation and everything else that might have followed if this bodyguard right here didn't speak up. So what most people, I'm assuming, are going to do, they're going to say, hey, they probably paid this guy off. They're going to assume there's no way he came out and spoke off his own initiative because he maybe was guilty and thought about, man, if something happened to this dude while he's in there, I would know that I could have said something that may have changed this whole situation. I think that's definitely possible. I don't think everybody is ruled and moved by money. I do not think that is always the case at all. People are human. If that was a situation I saw personally, and I knew that Tory Lanez was in prison and I saw what happened, it would be difficult for me to sleep at night knowing that I could bring justice to a situation where there is injustice. Now, guys, of course, I really want to know what you guys thought of this whole thing. We know most people are probably going to pretend. What I keep seeing is people are pretending like, oh, yeah, we already knew this. We already saw this come. There's no way I saw this coming at all. Let's read a few of these comments, what the people have to say. We're over here at the perfect place to actually check out these comments, and this is the Shade Room. Top comment here says, we all knew this shit. Shaking my head. That's why we've been saying free Tory. Now let that man free. Somebody else here added, she lied to Gail on TV, to the world. I been you. We can't trust her. So this person's like, yeah, you know what? At this point, we got to be honest. We can't trust Megan Thee Stallion. I'm wondering how the Stallion fans are reacting to this, because Megan hasn't ascended to the heights that she probably assumed this whole situation would get her to. She probably thought, hey, I'm going to be this generation's Rihanna. I'll be looked at as a relatable woman, and my music's going to take off, and this will only make me greater. But it really hasn't done that. First off, the 10-year sentence, considering everything that most people knew, most people probably sat there and went, that was a little bit harsh. For somebody who didn't die, I know how hard that sounds to hear. And I'm saying this as someone who's looking at this and just seen a bunch of drunk people who are just making bad decisions, and no one's actually thinking, I'm going to, shoot that person. If anyone was thinking that, if this is true, then Kelsey, probably in Mexico somewhere, or maybe should be, because it's about to get interesting. Another person who says, I mean, technically, he's not even locked for anything that happened to Megan anyway. So what's all this about? Here we go. Now here comes the, it doesn't matter. I saw somebody else who said, let's not forget the state is the one that held him accountable. And I'm sitting there going, but she really championed it. Public opinion does sway things to a certain extent. And she believes that he's the one, or she says he's the one that actually shot at her. I would be very surprised if his innocence, Tory Lanez innocence, does not ruin Megan Thee Stallion's music career. Another person who says, how long is this going to go on? Here's another person who says, I literally believe she shot her. Here's somebody else who says, so why no one said this during the trial? LOL. Because it's the same street rules and people trying to live up to a certain code that makes no sense. I just don't get it. This is your life. Maybe he wants to be hard and doesn't want to be in PC and doesn't want to cooperate and wants to make sure he maintains his street reputation. Hey, listen, if that's what he chooses, everybody's allowed to live the life that they live. As for me, I'm calling the police fast, not slow. Listen, of course, guys, I'm curious to know what you think. Leave your comments down below. Always curious to know. Appreciate you guys. Crazy stuff. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.